Welcome back. This is Mr. Tipton, and today we are classifying quadrilaterals. Quad means four. Quadrilaterals are four-sided figures. Quadrilaterals are going to branch off into four different groups, four different types of quadrilaterals. Over here on the right, we have what's called a trapezium, and a trapezium has no congruent sides. I tried to draw a trapezium. Didn't do a very good job with this pen, but the four sides of this figure are different lengths. That means none of the angles are the same. Trapezium. We're not going to spend much time with trapeziums today. Next we have kites. We're not going to spend much time with kites either. Kites have two pairs of congruent adjacent sides. Alright, this side and this side right here, they're adjacent because they're touching, they're right next to each other, and they're also congruent because they've got the congruency marks going through. That's one pair, and then here's another pair of congruent adjacent sides. Now, I know we can say, oh well, it's kite-shaped. It looks like a kite, but we really can't go by what things look like anymore. We have to go by the definitions of the different figures. Over here on the left, we have our trapezoids. We will be working with trapezoids in this unit, and trapezoids have exactly one pair of parallel sides. When you see the arrows in the sides, like are down here, these are symbols that those lines are parallel. Parallel, we know, means those lines are never going to intersect. They're the same distance away from each other at every corresponding point, and they're never going to run into each other. That's what parallel means. Trapezoids have exactly one pair of those parallel sides. I've got a fourth arrow going down to the bottom of the screen. It's actually pointing to our next slide, because the biggest part of the quadrilaterals are the parallelograms, if they'll show up here. There we go, taking our time this morning. Parallelograms have two pairs of parallel sides. So trapezoids had exactly one pair of parallel sides, but a parallelogram has two. You can see in this figure that I've drawn here, the left and the right are parallel, and the top and the bottom are parallel. Alright? Now from parallelograms, we go two different ways. If we go over here to the left, we have rectangles. Rectangles are parallelograms. Okay? The left and the right side of this rectangle I've drawn are parallel, as are the top and the bottom. Rectangles are parallelograms, but what makes something a rectangle, it's not that it's longer. It's that it has four right angles. Okay, so if I asked you what a rectangle was, you wouldn't say, well, it's a long square. You tell me that a rectangle is a figure that has four right angles. And if it has four right angles, that means it's also a parallelogram. If we go back to parallelograms and then off to the right side, another type of parallelogram is called a rhombus. A rhombus, a lot of people want to say, oh, a rhombus is a diamond. No, the diamond isn't really a shape. I mean, I've seen diamonds, kind of like, come on, pen, kind of like this-ish. Boy, that was a bad example. Maybe more like this. Pen's not cooperating. I've got too much writing on the screen. Anyway, rhombus is not diamond shape. What a rhombus is four congruent sides. Congruent, excuse me, is a geometry word for equal. So four sides that are all the same length. Now if you take what a rectangle is and what a rhombus is and put them together, you get a square. A square is a figure that has 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides. A square is a rectangle. It's also a rhombus. It's also a parallelogram. It's also a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides. Again, we can't go by what figures look like anymore. We have to go by their properties. So it's real important that we know the properties. We need to know these 4 for sure: parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, square. We also need to know trapezoid. Remember, trapezoid has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. We might see a trapezium or a kite every once in a while, but they're not going to be a huge part of what we're working with this year. If you have questions about the different figures, about the different quadrilaterals and how they're classified, write them down and be ready to talk about them in class. See you soon.